I'm Max Beasley, and you're listening to the 5D Podcast.
This is Andrew Berkeley, and you're listening to the 5D Podcast.
Hey, this is Level Up Leroy, and you're listening to the 5D Podcast.
Get yourself ready for an interdimensional sensory experience. Welcome all to the dimension of sci-fi, fantasy, and horror. This is the 5D Podcast.
Hello there and welcome to the 5D Podcast, brought to you by Stuart and Zach from 5d-blog.com. Welcome to those of you listening live on Twitch. Also, welcome to those of you listening on iTunes, Spotify, TuneIn and Stitcher. Be sure to check out the 5d-blog.com website for blog articles, competitions and news. And of course, check out the 5D YouTube channel, the details for which can be found on the 5D website. Hello. How's it going?
Not bad. How are you?
I'm fine. I'm looking forward to our next sort of half an hour, 45 minutes, whatever it turns out to be, technology speaking.
Why would that be?
Well, we've got a special guest. We've got to return to the 5D podcast special, which is great. So we've got do you know who we've got? Hopefully you do, because we're going to be speaking to the gentleman in a couple of moments.
I do not.
We have got Faran Tahir that we're about to speak to.
It's a bit awkward that you asked me that, because in the previous podcast we talked about it.
We talk about a lot of things in previous podcasts and a lot of things that you forget that we've talked about, but that's okay. That's all right. So anyway, listen, we're going to talk to Faran in a couple of moments. Hopefully I pronounced his name right. I'm terrible with pronunciations of any names. So Faran was born in LA, Los Angeles, to people outside the business. Born in LA, brought up in Pakistan, I think, until his late teens. He was a successful theatre actor. Still is. Made his film debut in Disney's live-action adaptation of The Jungle Book, and then has been in some big films. Elysium, he was in. Iron Man, he was in. He was in the 2008, so the first of the big MCU films. He was in Lost with J.J. Abrams, and also as well he was in Star Trek in the reboot back in 2009, and a recurring role in Sci-Fi Channel's Warehouse 13 has kind of helped seal his fantasy fan base, because he'll have a big sci-fi fantasy fan base because of works like that. He's got an extensive body work in TV, movies and theatre as well. So his IMDb list is big. I don't know if you had a look at it, but it's substantial.
I have indeed.
It's pretty good. So shall we get on with it then? Shall we just have a chat with Faran and see how he's hanging and what he's got to say?
I suppose we probably should.
Let's do this. All right.
Scotch, because I've had a whole day of editing, so excuse me.
Knock yourself out, my man.
That's orange. It's just pure orange, nothing else.
Well, that's what I'm going to say to the public, that's what I'm having. It's just... Yeah.
I was going to say, what time is it your end? Are you drinking? Would that be early for you? Would it be? Where are you at the moment?
I'm in Pakistan right now. Right. I just finished a movie that I was acting in, and then I'm also in the editing room for another movie that I'd done last year.
Okay.
So, so right now my eyes and my head is. Well, it's not there. That's the only way I can put
it. So we could really say anything, and it would be okay. It would be fine.
Awesome. Yes, let's do it.
Listen, I do appreciate you, man, sort of joining us, because I've been trying to get hold of you for a wee while, and you're about the busiest man. Like you say, you're doing like 3 things at once at the moment. So how you find it with the whole the whole lockdown thing? 'Cause I mean, it's just been crazy, hasn't it? This last.
It's been crazy. I mean, and I'm sure for you guys even worse lately.
In the UK, it's pretty bad. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, we've had the same thing. I mean, US has. Good God! I mean, we have 1/3 of the COVID infections in the country. But I was just trying to say this to somebody else, that especially in the industry that we are in, it's a triple-fold effect.
Yeah.
Because, as an engineer or as a whatever, you can function and earn your living with a mask on. But as an actor, you can't act. I mean, you can't be in front on camera unless you can justify the mask. You gotta take it off, and there's a risk.
And then that renders the editors redundant. So if no one can act,
exactly,
no one can
exactly.
Yeah.
So I mean, so our requirements are so crazy because you have to be tested every 3 days.
Right.
Before you go into your shoot, you have to be quarantined for 2 weeks. Then you get tested every 3 days. You can't take your mask off until the director yells action. That's when the mask comes off.
Oh man.
Jeez.
Right? And the minute he says cut, the mask goes up. The crew cannot come anywhere near the actors unless they're in complete PPEs, gloves, mask, shield. So, right? I mean, so it's such an insane world that you're dealing with all of a sudden.
Doesn't that just feed into the? And I'm not saying that actors are divas, because we've talked to quite a few actors.
We are.
Well, yeah, okay. Yeah. Between me and you, we'll say this. It got to 6 o'clock. Went, maybe he's keeping us waiting. Yeah, he's probably just going to wait that extra minute. Just keep
exactly.
See, whilst we're on the subject of the pandemic, Faran, did you see what Tom Cruise had said, with the Mission Impossible stuff about how
I just heard that, and
from someone on the inside, from the inside, like from your point of view, is it something that you would agree with? Because there was a big thing, especially in the UK. It came over here because obviously it was shot in the UK.
What was the take? What was the take in UK?
Basically, the take in general was that he was overly harsh, and then I think the general take was, in the UK we don't talk to people like employees like that as such. But
look, I mean, here is my point. I think his point was valid. I think the way he presented his point was a little off, because I think there is no moment ever to disrespect or make someone else feel little. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think what that does is that, yes, maybe in the moment they will listen to you. And it might create fear. It does not create respect.
Have you ever been in the situation yourself where you've had, obviously nothing like that, but have you ever had a director, or I don't expect you to name names, obviously, but a situation where you felt that line has been crossed in anything that you've done?
Yes, it has happened to me, and it kind of, it's funny because it happened to me very early. Well, it's happened a few times, but the time that I remember the most is when I was a young actor trying to pad my resume. So you're taking roles, whatever, right? And this one particular director, who shall stay unnamed, thought that I was this newbie, this tenderfoot who was on the set. So he decided that I was going to be his whipping boy, right?
Right.
So that he could show other people how authoritative he was, right? So I took it, and finally, there came a moment when I just turned to him and I said, "Look, I have this feeling that you think that temper is one man's property, and it just ain't."
Yeah.
So what you're doing right now is you're also giving me permission to show my crazy. And you have no idea what my crazy might be, right? So I think if there's something that I'm not doing that you want me to do as a director, that is your basic definition, is to communicate what you want out of people.
Yeah.
Right. So if you can't do that, then maybe you need to take a moment. Because if I turn around and I'm a nobody. So if you talk to me like that, and I'm a nobody, I turn around and I just literally, pull your pants down and hand them in your hands. It's not going to be good.
That's a really nice.
Find a civil. Yeah, so let's find a civil way to have a discourse. And if you don't want me here, just tell me that. I'll leave. It's okay.
Perfectly passive-aggressive response, wasn't it? Really.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
So obviously you're in Pakistan at the moment. So I mean, you were born in LA. I think then you spent the first 16. You moved back to Pakistan. I think your family moved back there. They moved back to America 17, 18. Is that correct? Mm-hmm. Something like that. It's a question about. I like to ask people that your sort of background in terms of born, move, then come back. What do you feel? Do you feel American? Do you feel Pakistani? Do you feel as it creates?
That's an interesting question, and that's a question that for someone like me, not only does it come from other people, it's a question that I ask myself.
Sure. Yeah.
Right. Who am I? Like, where do I belong?
Yeah.
And I think the simplest answer is that people in my situation, my position, we are people who will always orbit two suns at the same time. We just keep on going back and forth. And if someone was to ask me what I like, which I like better, my answer to that is that if you come from, well, there is no family that's normal, but if you came from a quote unquote normal family, right? The question that do you like your father or your mother better is a moot question, because my father and my mother inform me in different ways.
Yeah.
And it makes me who I am. So similarly, I lived in Pakistan because that's where I come from. I lived in England for a while, and I've lived most of my life in the US.
Yeah.
But for me to say that I'm only the son or the product of one would be wrong.
Yeah, definitely.
Right? So to me, it's like, so I'll give an example. Like somebody asked me today that, so which lifestyle do you like better? And in my particular case, when I'm here, I can, within 3 days in Pakistan, I can slip into that lifestyle, which is, traffic have no rules. Life is just, you know what I mean? And when I'm in that moment, I don't miss the US. But by the same token, when I'm in the US, I'll be lying if I said that I don't have the same thing.
Yeah.
Because my life there, when I'm there, I'm there. I'm just living my life. So to me, it's kind of a false comparison, trying to find which one I like better. I find value in both of them. I think they're great things in both places, and I'm hoping that I can extract the best out of both and let go of what I don't like.
Okay, that's a good. I like the mother-father analogy. That's quite a good one. I may use that because I grew up in, we grew up in England, but now we're in Scotland.
Right.
Similar sort of thing to a certain degree. It makes it interesting for when we've got sports and things like that.
Exactly.
My dad's Scottish, so I'm kind of half Scottish, half English, and we've got the whole football and soccer and cricket and all that stuff. So we've got those sort of rivalries going on. So when you're walking around Pakistan, do you get people who know you more for the work you've done in Pakistan, or do you still get people coming up to you, Iron Man or Star Trek or whatever it may be?
Look, I haven't worked in Pakistan that extensively until as of the last 3 or 4 years.
Okay.
And I've been trying to do more here for personal reasons. My parents are getting old, so it gives me an opportunity and an excuse to be here for a longer period of time. Yes, I think still Iron Man, Star Trek, Escape Plan or whatever that is, different people have that, and that does happen. But also the thing that I love is what happens is like You're like, I know who
you were. You were that guy in that thing.
Yeah, exactly.
That
to
was
be
the
very
exact
honest,
face of my wife when I showed her your picture to say you was coming on, because she's like, oh,
like,
once upon a time, getting away with murder. She's like, all of these.
Yeah, but let me tell you, I think as an actor, that's a beautiful thing. If people can't recognize you by name, and if they can only recognize you by the character that you play, I think that's a beautiful thing.
I was going to say a similar thing, and I didn't want to offend you, but I was going to. The amount of people that I've said in the last week, I'm talking to Faran Tahir. Who? And you show the picture, they go,
yeah.
Oh yeah, it's
yeah, exactly.
Oh yeah.
Look, I mean, people will think that would not feed my ego. That's what feeds my ego. No, really, I'm being serious, because that means that they know me. Look, as an actor, you know, there's a part of your life that's public, right? There's a part of you that's private. That's all fine. But if people recognize me for what they liked me in, that is a huge compliment to me. It's not like so and so playing so and so. They just saw the character, right?
Yeah.
And if I can achieve that throughout my life, I'm golden. I'm happy.
We were discussing before we spoke to you just about this, because we're looking through your IMDb list, and you've got, extensive TV, theatre, film. You've got a huge list of body of work there, and yet you like I say, I spoke to people and went, Star Trek, Escape Plan, or you've got these specific things, and I've often wondered if an actor. You said it doesn't, but I can imagine some actors, and I've heard some actors have felt just offended in some way. They're just known for that one thing that they maybe spent a couple of days doing 10, 20 years ago, but that's what people want to talk to them about. And I can imagine people want to talk to you about, like Iron Man. Iron Man was what, 2008?
Of course.
And
2008, like 7, 8, whatever that is.
Yeah. I mean, have you done the convention?
But I will also say that, fortunately enough, different people will connect my face to different projects.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, so there's a whole slice of people who want to talk to me about Iron Man. There's a whole slice of people who want to talk about Star Trek, no matter how short my sojourn in it was. Right. And there are people who want to talk about Escape Plan or whatever. And then there are people who want to talk about Scandal or like something that I did on TV. Yeah. So to me, those are different audiences. And if you can somehow reach them and make them feel connected or identify something that you did, a moment, it's not the whole character. Maybe it's one moment that they find affinity with.
Yeah.
To me, that's humbling, and and I feel honored that I could reach out to that person in that moment.
Yeah, yeah.
So to me, my ego is fed by the roles that I play, not if they remember my name.
Okay.
My name is unimportant. My name is more important to me in my private life. It's not as important to me in my work life.
Have you done the conventions? Have you done any of the cons? For
Oh yes,
yeah. Let's talk about this then.
I have done conventions and all that. Yeah. And I know there are actors who roll their eyes at conventions, but I find them to be really sweet. Because people are respectful for the most part.
Yeah.
And I always feel that, these people who have taken time out, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like taking time off of work. I mean, if you look at the process for people to get there, right? They might have had to put in an application or a letter or something to their boss that I can't be there on a certain day. Blah, 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 blah. And the conventions that we're talking about, the people dress up like Comic-Cons and all of that. So then you think about all the time that they put in like trying to create that look. When they do that, I find that really humbling, because if you look into that person's life, they have taken out so much time that they could have spent somewhere else. For them to do this and be there, that, I don't know, man. I mean, look, if we didn't have those people, I wouldn't be sitting here, is the way I look at it.
Yeah.
Because without, it's what do we say that, if a tree falls in a forest, right? That's the thing. So if there's no one to appreciate it, then it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I mean, in the industry or the field that I am in.
That's really true. I mean, the conventions, they do get a bad rap, and you do get some fans who, in certain areas, I won't mention the areas, but the Trek fans can't. I mean, I love Star Trek, but the Trek fans and like Star Wars can be very, really,
they can be in your face at times.
Oh my God, yeah.
And then they start asking you questions that you have no answer. You know what I mean? Because they think that's who you are. Right?
Did you have people asking you about the technical aspects of the starship that you were on, or anything?
Oh yeah. And then so who would win if so and so would be? I'm like, I don't know, man. It depends on who was paid more. That's who's gonna win.
I watched because I was talking to you tonight. I watched a couple of your films during the week, and I picked on Star Trek first of all, and. I mean, you said it was like a short appearance, but it is a kind of a pivotal role, in that it's, at the beginning. I'd forgot, and it's a few years since I've seen it, because I love the reboots. I love the, the series that they've done since that, and I think they've done it really well. I'd forgot for some reason that Chris Hemsworth was in that.
I know, right?
Whatever happened to him?
This was pre-Thor. Right, I mean, before he
went nowhere,
and I'm so glad he did. But the thing is that, look, I mean, so there's those gems like Chris Hemsworth, the father of James T. Kirk. Right, and we were joking about this, that if you really look at it, the whole saga literally starts with that moment. Because if you look at the Star Trek thing, if you really want to get kind of like nerdy about it, right? So literally we have followed James T. Kirk as a Star Trek protagonist. So the entire saga starts with his birth. So that would make us the very first ship in the saga, right? Yes.
Can I talk about Iron Man just for a moment? Because obviously, there's other things as well, and there's a few things I want to talk to you about. But the Iron Man, obviously, it was like the first in the series, and now what's become this huge, the huge MCU, the whole Marvel Cinematic Universe and everything. Did you? I mean, were you aware of the comic book? I mean, obviously aware of it. Were you a fan, or were you kind of aware of the superheroes kind of? Mystique behind it all, and the whole, thing behind Iron Man beforehand? Or...
Oh, look, I mean, I when I was growing up, I think I had a collection of almost 400 to 500 comics.
Okay.
Right? I mean, I loved that whole thing.
Yeah.
And Iron Man was one of Iron Man, Batman, were the heroes that I loved, and I'll tell you why. Because they gave me hope. Because they weren't bitten by some insect, and then they got their powers. They didn't come from some planet.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? These were heroes that took natural knowledge and made themselves superheroes, right? So in Iron Man or Batman situation, they don't have any God-given powers. They created those powers.
They have no superpowers, do they, at all?
Right? And as a kid, to me, that was hopeful. That I can do things that I think are impossible.
Nice.
If I apply myself to it, right? So to me, so that part of it was really exciting. So I was a huge Iron Man fan. I was a huge Batman fan, because these are people who, like, it was sweat and blood that got them there. It wasn't like some God-given. It wasn't like some inheritance or some entitlement or some accident.
But there's also something
made it happen.
There's also something very particular, I think, Batman and Tony Stark as well, but without getting too into this, but there's something Shakespearean in terms of, you know, the tragedy behind.
Exactly.
And you know, I don't know. I was going to ask you about, because you've done a lot of theatre work, and you've done the crossover between theatre and these big blockbuster movies. And how have you been regarded by certain theatre contemporaries? Is there this sort of snobbish attitude towards movies like that, or is that a myth? Does that snobbery not actually exist, and people will do that sort of work these days, probably more maybe than they used to?
Well, look, I mean, there is snobbery. I mean, let's be honest about it. I think it's there. I think, talking of theater, I mean, a question that comes up a lot is like, what are your most challenging roles?
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, I'll be very honest. My most challenging roles are, playing Othello, playing Richard III.
Yeah.
Because, and I'll tell you why. If you leave everything aside, the reason it's the most challenging is because there's no time you can say cut.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You get on stage, lights are flipped on, and it's up to you.
Yeah.
Whatever happens, that's most challenging, right? To me, to be able to do Shakespeare and make it accessible to people, because I think there's a myth that classical theater, classical theater is not accessible. Yes, it is.
Yeah.
The responsibility falls on us.
I went to see a few years ago, open air. It was only about 3 or 4 years ago, up in here in Scotland. It's a travelling company that goes around the UK. They're called the Festival Players, and they do a performance each year. And this particular year, it was Richard III. It was brilliant. It was absolutely mesmerizing. And
I wish I could see that, because I did it 2 years ago, so I wish I could have seen that. Anyway,
well, I'll send you some of the pictures. I've still got the picture. I'll send you some of the pictures.
I would love that.
Because they came into the audience, and everybody was sat in this. It was in this castle in Scotland, in the grounds, the gardens. It was beautiful, and I totally agree, because I studied at school Julius Caesar, which I didn't really like at the time. I think maybe the way it was taught. But a friend of mine, some years later, after I'd left school, gave me a copy of Much Ado About Nothing, and she said, "Read it." And it was, I laughed my head. I thought it was the funniest thing I'd ever read. I thought it was brilliant. And I think this comparison between big movie themes and shit, it is very similar in terms of the themes that they deal with.
And the thing that you will realize is this: that people who have done Shakespeare do really well in sci-fi.
Yeah.
Do really, and the reason being that there is it's not a question of being theatrical. It's a question of like the stakes being so high.
Yeah.
Right. And the ability when you're doing sci-fi, right? When you're doing Shakespeare, you're doing Lear or whatever, right? Somebody in the back of the stage is shaking these metal sheets for the nature to, right? But you in that moment have to make the audience believe.
Yeah.
that the thunder is there, right?
Yeah.
Sci-fi is the same thing, because there are moments when you have to play like, and all that's coming to your face is a black balloon. You know what I mean? But that's theater for you. That's theater for you. It's just the imagination. If the actor can get themselves there,
Yeah.
the audience will come with you.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if it's a black balloon or if it's whatever it is. So I think there's some real value that we can extract from classical theater that then we can use in film or whatever medium that you want to use.
I would agree. Where did the bug come from in the acting bug? I mean, were your parents theatrical, or is it something that you found elsewhere? Or?
No, I mean, luckily I was fortunate. I am a third generation. So my grandparents were theater people, playwrights, actors, producers, directors. Both my parents were that. But fortunately, okay, so when you come from a family like that, people might assume that there's a pressure for you to go into that field. Fortunately, there was never a pressure. It was always the message that my family or my parents always gave me was, find your passion.
Okay.
And follow your passion.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what we did or what the family has done. Find your passion. Which in my case, I found it, or in my case, in my youngest brother's case, we found it in being in this business. My middle brother is very different.
Yeah.
He found his passion somewhere else. So I think in the end, the message that we should hold on to is find your passion.
That's a good message, isn't it? It is. Do what pleases you. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I used to say that when I was teaching. I used to say this to my students was, you know what? If there are 3,000 ways of making a living, and you will do okay. But in the end, if you find your passion, and if the only way for you to excel in something is if you have a passion.
Yeah.
Simple as that.
In terms of this passion you've got, then you've done a whole range of things. Theatre. You've probably been asked this 1,000 times, but I'd like to ask it anyway. What is your preferred? If somebody said to you, right, you're going to spend the rest of your life in theatre, or TV appearances, or big movies, what would it be?
Look, I think I have evolved. And I'll tell you why. Because I was a total theater boy.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, I think that's where my parents were, that's who I was. But I think the thing that I've realized over time is this, that it's not about who I am. It's about telling stories. We tell stories, right?
Yeah.
So it depends what story you're telling, and how and what medium you're telling it in. Okay.
Yeah.
So by saying that, there are certain stories that are best told in theater because there's an intimacy that you cannot replace, no matter how much money you put into film and television. There's a beautiful personal intimacy that you find in theater. We are literally locking eyes not only with the other character, but with the rest of the people, whether it's an audience of 50 or 500 or 5,000, right? Yeah. So but that's one way. That's one thing. There are other stories that if if they were told on stage, they would be ludicrous, right? And I'll give you an example: Star Trek.
Mhm.
If you put Star Trek on stage, people would laugh their heads off, because the audience would never be able to get into the reality of Star Trek on stage.
Yeah.
You need the expanse to get you there, right? That's a way of telling. And then there's stories that you need to tell over time. And as an actor, your challenge is how you create that time.
Yeah.
The economies of scale, if you're working on TV, what you reveal when, so that, in the 7th episode, what seed do you sow in episode 3 that can be reaped in episode 7 or 8?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So my point is that if you're telling stories, you need to find the right medium.
Yeah.
And once you know what the medium is, you need to respect it. And at the same time, then you respect it and then nourish it and make it work to your advantage, right? So to me, it's about telling stories. The stories that I want to tell on stage, then there's stories that I want to tell in film, and then there's stories that I want to stretch them out and I want to tell them on TV.
Yeah.
So to me, I have let go of my egotistical bias to theater, which is there, right? I mean, Shakespeare, literally, you can tell me tomorrow that, hey, Faran, you're going to play the Scottish man, right? You will never have to tell me what money I will get to play that Scottish man.
Can you do a Scottish accent?
That is growth. That is growth, and that is opportunity to improve my soul.
Okay. Can you? So Zach said, "Can you do the Scottish accent?"
Oh no! Look. Yeah, I mean, if I need to, I'll find it.
No pressure.
You might cock your head like, you know what? You don't look so Scottish, but okay, whatever.
And if there are any studio execs listening, Faran did just say that he would do stuff for free, so
No, I would. Look, I mean, I've been known to do that. To do that. There are times when I've said, "Give me $1." So that my agents and my unions are happy, as long as I can do this thing. Because I think I want to make money. You want to make money. Everybody wants to make money. Fine.
Yeah.
Great. Let's make money. But let's find the balance between making money and also being and staying true to who you are.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny you said about sort of doing, for free, because I mean, Escape Plan, for example. I've never been an actor. I couldn't act to save my life, and I couldn't stand. I mean, I teach. I'm a lecturer in college. I stand up in front of a class. I've stood up in front of 150 people doing a lecture, but I could not do what you guys do and emote all that stuff. But if I did, and I was in a film with Sylvester Stallone, Arnold Schwarzenegger, I don't care how much I would have done beforehand. I would have just been. I would have been in pig's heaven. Then it would be my idea of.
And I was because when I accepted that role, the thing that I thought about the most was that it's awesome.
Yeah,
that I'm doing this. So what do I want to extract besides the paycheck?
Yeah.
Right? And to me, it was literally going to school because I'm working with these icons who understand action. Yeah. They literally, they understand every single frame of the action genre, right? They know the angle, literally, of look how much, which is...
That was a great
look. That was beautiful.
Right? You know what I mean? I mean, but these guys, I mean, I'm learning and I've learned.
Yeah.
But these guys, they've been through it so many times. To them, it's nothing, right? So I wanted to learn that from them. When it wasn't my scenes, I would still go to the set, just so that I could see that. Okay, how do they do that? I mean, what's the thing? I mean, how do they understand that if you go from 45 degree to 47, that's too much, right? So you start to like figure that, but so that's one side of it. The other side of it, that when you get on, when they say action, I don't give a flying F if it's Stallone or Schwarzenegger or God. Right? I need to do what I need to do. Right? So that's the other side of it. Like when that happens, you wipe it all off, and you go, okay. You're bringing your game. I'm going to bring my game.
True. Yeah.
So there's that side of it. But as long as you're true with yourself, you can find the humility, and you can find that moment of being an equal at the same time.
It's interesting you say. I mean, cause it's kind of like a. I'm not saying this is what you're saying, but it's kind of like an ego thing as well. It's like, I'm Faran Tahir. I can keep, I can match you in whatever the hell you do, sort of thing.
Yeah, that sentence always comes when I'm looking myself in the mirror all the time, because all of the times people remind me, I'm Faran Tahir, and they'll go, who?
They'll go, oh, you're the.
So that'll bring you back to reality.
It's interesting. You never stop learning. Is that still even true now in terms of an actor?
Yes.
You still every day come maybe something new.
No, that is my mantra in life, and when I teach, I should say that to my students. That the day you think that you have mastered something, that day creativity is dead.
Yeah.
So for creativity to happen, you need to stay a student all your life, right? Because the minute you say that I've mastered something, where you're going to, what's your next step?
Yeah.
But by staying a student, it brings humility. It brings a spirit to improve yourself. So if you were to ask me, I want to stay a student of theater, of acting, of this craft all my life. There might be moments when I'm on red carpet and I'll be a diva, but that's a different thing. Right? Because in that moment I've earned it. But when you come down to actually working, I personally think, stay a student.
Yeah.
Never say you're a master.
That's good. Be a student and be a diva. There's there's a room for both. There's
room for both. I mean, and I think one of my greatest, one of my best examples is Robert Downey Jr. He can be talking to you, and then go, hold on, I need to be a star. So he'll turn and he'll do his thing, and he'll go, okay, done. Okay, let's get back to our content. And I love that. I love that kind of groundedness to know that, I need to do that. I need to be a star for certain people because that's what they expect, but that's not who I am.
Yeah. What does the future hold then in terms of, do you map out what's going to be happening, or do you take things month by month? Have you got the next year, say, mapped out in terms of what you're probably doing?
Well, look, I mean, I think it's a mix of both. Like there are things that I'm working on that I want to make them into realities.
Yeah.
Talking of Scotland, I think my next stab I think at this age, because I just did Othello and Richard III, I think the Scottish man.
The Scottish play. You're going to do the Scottish play,
If people would accept me in that, that would be my next.
They would.
Next
go
goal.
for it. Yeah, right? That'd be great.
Because it's not about the color. It's about if you can really find the soul of that character.
Yeah.
So what I'm saying is that there are things that will hopefully come to me. There are things that I'm actually crafting, and there are a few scripts that I've written myself that hopefully I can bring to fruition.
Yeah.
So there are a lot of things that are going in parallel, basically.
That's cool. Listen, man, we're taking a lot of your time. I completely appreciate the time you give. It's been great. I've really enjoyed this, and hopefully, if you come over and do the Scottish play over in Scotland, that'd be great. You know,
we are hoping. And I think that might happen.
We'll come and we'll and we'll
and you're gonna rip us apart? Do that.
Yeah, and you can be an old demon. We can pretend that we know you, and you can just go, no, I have no idea who people are.
Who these guys?
Who these guys?
I'm a star.
Faran, man, it's been a blast. Seriously, it's been a blast. Thank you for your time. Enjoy I don't know what time it is over in Pakistan at the moment.
Must be getting late, must it?
It's almost midnight. But thank you so much for having me. I mean, it's and I'm not just saying this, it's humbling. It's an honor, and hopefully we can do it again.
I would love to do this again. Definitely do this again.
Let's do it. Let's do it.
Thank you. Sorry for keeping you up so late. You take care, man. All right.
All my love and prayers for you guys.
You too, guys.
You guys, Faran.
Thank you. See you later. Bye-bye.
Get yourself ready for an interdimensional sensory experience. Welcome all to the dimension of sci-fi, fantasy, and horror. This is the 5D Podcast.